Y'all ready for this?
Y'all ready for this?
Ready.
Welcome to Hive Scum, the podcast for the 28 community. I'm your host, Gage, at No Clear Coat.
I'm your host, Steve, at South of Heaven.
I'm not your host, Blair's at Blair's Craft.
Who am I?
Who are you today?
Who am I really? I'm Phil. I'm at Blood Transfusion.
Beautiful. We did it. We're here. You're all here. Blurs is here.
Blurs is here, filling in for Terry. Could not be here this weekend.
This rainy Sunday morning.
Is it even raining?
Not raining.
Okay, this cloudy Sunday morning.
Beautiful New England Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Blurs, how long you been in New England?
3 years now.
Do you fanatically love it like we do?
I
In the last episode, I went on a
Feels like
rant
I
about how
fucking
much I
hate it.
hate it here.
That
love
seems
New
like a
Yeah.
trick question. If you fanatically love it, then yes, I fanatically love it as well.
Yeah. Gun to your head.
I love it.
No, but I mean, you come from the West, right?
Yeah.
The Southwest.
The
He's a
Southwest.
desert rat.
Yeah.
Desert rat. That's me.
Do you miss the weather? Do you miss
In the Southwest?
Do you miss dry heat?
Yes, I do.
Dry heat rocks.
Yeah.
I miss the lack of humidity.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
I miss things not molding. Like
Yeah.
I had paint water. I've never experienced this. I had paint water that I left brushes in, and I came back like a week later. I'd set it up on a shelf and forgot about it, and there was like white mold growing all over the brush handles.
Never seen white mold in your life.
I was like, brushes don't mold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's New England, baby.
Yeah.
You're in a basement right now.
Yeah.
You're in a moldy basement.
Yes.
I'm
As
molding
you
as
speak.
we speak.
I could feel it in my lungs.
That's right.
Oh, I know we'll talk about it later, but ShireCon,
Yeah.
when you went from the second floor into the basement where vendors and stuff were, it was just like a physical level of mold
You'd feel
that you
the
walked
spores.
into. It was
Ew, dude.
fucked up.
The
You could, like,
spores
smell
landing
it.
on your skin.
Yeah, it was fucked up.
Why don't you tell us about it? What have you been up to? What's been going on?
I was at ShireCon.
You were at ShireCon this
I was at
weekend.
ShireCon. I know. I opened my can of Coke Zero
Do
early.
we have Coke Zeros in here?
I have one.
Oh.
You can go have it.
Where did this one
That
small
came
can-
from my house
Oh, okay.
because
Never
I
mind.
knew we had none here.
You can go grab a Coke Zero.
You sure?
I sponsored you. It's all
All
right.
right, thank you.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Hive Scum will sponsor it.
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah. Thanks, patrons, for these Coke Zeros.
Thanks, patrons. If you would like to be a patron and support our Coke Zeros, head over to patreon.com/hivescum.
Beautiful. Great. Now, how's ShireCon?
Anyway, ShireCon. ShireCon was a wonderful little convention hosted in the town of Canaan, Connecticut. And if you don't know where Canaan, Connecticut is, well, you are
Neither
just
do
like
residents
me.
of Connecticut.
It's like the Berkshires of Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
I would put in that because there's not a highway that reaches.
No. And
Well,
not
it literally is geographically
It's south of the
part
Berkshires.
of the Berkshires that extends into Connecticut. I do work in that area a lot, and I also was just completely unaware of it my entire time being a resident of this very, very small state, and I love it out there.
It's a very nice area. I actually went swimming there over this past summer in a river. It was very nice.
Yeah. It was funny because so much of that area is very, very big, very expensive houses where it's just like people that live in Manhattan. It's like their weekend homes.
Yeah.
And that specific area, Canaan, is actually one of the only like affordable, there's like working class, like people like live out there. They probably all work in Massachusetts because there's the closest like significant towns in Connecticut are like probably 40-minute drive away.
And did
Yeah.
that reflect on the con experience?
Yes. It was in a VFW hall.
There was almost certainly no
Oh,
that was pretty
that's a good one, right?
Spicy one.
There's probably not even like a gas station walking distance from the venue.
No, definitely.
You had
to drive your car.
You had well, you had to bring your. I mean, like you probably had to bring your own snacks unless they had food vendors.
So they have. Okay, so this VFW hall was pretty sick.
Okay.
The crowd is exactly what you'd expect for a rural Connecticut VFW hall because they have their normal attendance,
Right.
Obviously, they have a shack that is not connected to the building where they do food out of.
Okay.
And they have a whole menu.
A shack.
Yeah, it was
Food shack.
It was actually the food was very good.
No, what do you mean whole menu? You mean the more
They have
They didn't just have burgers and dogs and fries. They also had like a.
they They had tater tots,
Spaghetti
they had
dinner.
fried pickles, they had chicken cutlets. They had it was like a one-page menu, but it was the same menu every day, and then they would have specials that were not on the
If
menu.
the next Under the Dice Fest doesn't have a extensive menu like that, I'm going to.
I think
burn
it's
the venue down.
going to. I think Oliver's
Yeah, Oliver,
egg rolls he
we
brought
need
to
tater tots.
dude. He does
Well,
need
those
tater
are
tots.
lumpia.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The stuff that Oliver brought for everyone to taste test, he said this is just the tip of the iceberg of what is to come.
Oh boy.
That's true.
So
So tater tots aside,
tater tots aside,
you go to ShireCon,
ShireCon,
which is just a small old school roleplay con.
yeah, it's mostly old school role playing tabletop games. There was a 15mm battle game going on that did look pretty cool. It was the precursor to Temple of Elemental Evil, like the D&D supplement. It was like the battle that takes place before that, and they were playing it out with 15mm armies.
Do you know what kind of system they were playing?
It was a system that the guy is developing and putting out himself.
Okay, there you go.
That's cool.
It's very
15mm seems like some edgelord shit.
It was very weird scale because everything, it's slightly bigger than War Master.
Right.
But it was cool. It's definitely, Arcane Con is coming up, and tabletop role playing game. They're doing everything, but it's very much same style of this is all indie creators,
Right.
And it's enjoyers of the hobby.
Is
and
this the
games.
first ShireCon, or is this
No, they've been doing it for
a while?
a few years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
My only knowledge of it is Vintage RPG saying that they go, and I think 2 episodes now they've had for the last 2 years.
Yeah, he was there.
And-
he didn't have a table or anything. He was just chilling, playing games.
John Hambone McGuire.
John Hambone.
And Arcane Con that's coming up is the very first Arcane Con. And it is, when is it? November 8th or something like that? I literally have the flyer like
Every episode, we just need it next to the mixer.
I know.
Our sweet
We'll all
boy
be
Brian.
there.
We will all be there.
Yes,
Blurs, you'll be
absolutely.
there.
Yeah,
Hell
yeah,
New England
most
folks
definitely.
come through.
I'm working doors actually. Oh God,
Gage is the
Steve,
bouncer.
You got to find it. Brian's dependent on you, Steve. Come on.
November 9th.
November 9th. It's just the one day.
It is one day in Northampton, Massachusetts.
Northampton rocks.
Northampton does
Oh
rock.
yeah, he's not. Dude, the beauty of his con is that he doesn't have to worry about food. He doesn't.
Yes.
It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, you want something? I got you a wristband, and
Yep.
then you get discounts at local places that are
That's sick.
sponsoring the event.
Bring your skateboard too. There's a sick skate park down the street.
There is.
I have split my knee open there many times.
There's some good food in that.
Yeah,
neighborhood,
there's
too.
tons of good food options. It's gonna be an awesome day of gaming. There's
Thai
so
food.
much. This flyer doesn't have anything. I have to bring in one of the colored ones that Brian gave me for the wall.
the new flyer.
Yeah. Tons of cool stuff is going on. I don't think everything's filled out yet, or maybe the sign up list isn't even out. I'm not sure if it's out yet. I know he sends like
No,
subscriber
it
emails.
is. It is out.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
You can sign up for events.
Yes, because I signed up for Cyborg and
Fuck yeah.
Cave Evil,
Hell yeah.
which I should be getting soon. Actually, we could be playing Cave Evil soon.
What's this?
It's a board game where it's like necromancers are fighting each other, but the art style is like old school black metal album,
Awesome.
like very crazy art.
Is this the guy who did Dark Sector?
No.
Oh.
Similar style. Though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who did it?
Cave Evil.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Arcane Con will rock, and you
Arcane
should
Con
go,
will rock.
and you should sign up for the games being had.
But you were saying ShireCon is it's probably going to be half the size of what Arcane Con will be, right?
No,
It
it'll
was.
well, I don't, because of where Arcane Con is, I think it's going to be packed.
Yeah.
And Brian knows so many. He's a man of the people. Brian, he's well versed in many different crowds and groups, and there's definitely some hype behind the con.
Very charismatic, handsome boy.
Yes, and he is a true RPG head. Like he is an actual creator of content for the RPG community and OSE community. His stuff rocks. Brian rocks. He was there though at ShireCon. ShireCon was cool, but I do think Arcane Con will be a little bit bigger just due to geographic location.
Yeah, yeah. In the Patreon episode, Blurs asked you what the pros of
The highs and lows.
of of Shire.
The highs of Shire. Highs.
How many hobbits did you see?
Exactly 3.
Okay.
That's not bad.
That's a good amount.
If there wasn't one, you can't call it.
Yeah,
Shire.
yeah.
How many Gandalfs were there?
Oh, there's at least one.
Okay, sick.
One?
Yes.
This con is a failure.
Highs of the Shire Con. The biggest high was probably playing in Joey Royale's game. He's releasing a game on BackerKit called, I now have to look at my phone because I don't want to fuck up the name. Weird Heroes of Public Access, and it is truly the most insane concept game. It was so much fun. Brian has been talking about it for the past few sessions of D&D, and he's like, you guys, we got to play this. It's very weird, campy role-playing game where you are a public access show host, and each player has their own show. So you have to like come up with a name for your guy, then you have to come up with a name for your show, and like a whole like secondary identity, and your secondary identity goes on like mystery missions. It's very like Scooby-Doo. Like,
sounds great.
It's so funny and fun, and Joey running it, he's so charismatic. He's so good at getting into character. Like, he played all of these different characters, and every single one I could immediately see in my head.
How big was the group?
It was a lot of us. So the game was sold out, and then one person I think didn't show up, or maybe Joey was just like trying to get everyone that wanted to play into the game, because we went up there was already 6 people at the table, and Joey's like, nah, you guys are playing, come on, let's go. So we were all sitting there, we're all making our characters, and it was so just everyone making our characters were so funny. Like, Brian was bird watching with Barry was his character show, and he's like this weird guy named Barry who in his day job was a pool cleaner. So his like, you get prop items that you have like that you can pull out during role playing that makes sense for your character. And he just had like a bottle of chlorine that he was walking around with. One dude was like, I can't remember this guy Tim's character, but he's a reoccurring character in the story of this game, and he's like a karate dojo master. So he's just doing karate all the time. Like, it was great. I don't want to go all into it, but Joey was very charismatic. He's very funny. He's very good at what he does, and the game is awesome. It's on BackerKit right now. You can go check it out. It ends in 3 days, I think, or it goes live in 3 days. I think it goes live in 3 days.
2 very different things.
Yeah, well,
given we record a week out,
it must be going live in 3 days because you can't buy it right now. So I assume that just means the thing will start. But you get a bonus for being ahead of it, like signing up for the emailing list, which I did, obviously. But you won't get to do that, so sucks to be you. But yeah, that was the high, was playing in Joey's game, because I've known Joey online because I interviewed him for Under the Dice like years ago, like in the 3rd issue, and we never actually met, and I had no idea what kind of person he was. Yeah. Like, I didn't know anything about him other than my buddy Pat knew him. Was like, you got to talk to this guy. He runs this thing, Drinking and Dragons, which is like a fundraising thing down in Southern Connecticut. And so I did.
So that's it, though. Mostly hype about RPGs this last week or 2.
I did play BattleTech with this guy named Tom.
I know we were joking that you were only going to see old BattleTech heads and old RPG heads, and that was going to be it.
That's like, literally it.
Yeah.
Is that all you saw?
There was other stuff going on. I didn't interact with it, though. BattleTech Tom was sick. We played a gladiatorial arena in a Steiner arena. Yep. It was 2v2, me and Brian versus Ben and Tom, and they kicked our ass. But there was like mechanics where the walls would like move up and down.
Like real battle bots shit? Yeah.
It was sick. Very fun. So thank you to Tom. He's not going to hear this, but that's okay. Tom, the guy who runs the whole thing, was incredibly awesome. Great host. Very involved. He ran like a 12-person game at the end of the night on the last day.
That's sick.
It was very cool. ShireCon rocks.
Yeah, that's really cool that like in a rural place that something like that can go down.
Yes.
I mean,
and it's another example of like, if you want to do something like that, you can probably do it no matter where you are, and people will come.
The coolest thing that's ever hit that town ever.
Yeah. Besides the giant rally that they had the same day as ShireCon that blocked traffic getting there.
Motorcycle rally?
No, I have no idea what it was, but there was a guy in a giant like pickup truck at the end of the street, like blocking traffic. That
in Winstead?
Yeah,
it had to be like a Trump rally.
The truck in question had a giant Trump flag, and it was like literally blocking a street off, so you couldn't go down it.
Cool.
That's right for that area.
Yeah.
Blurs, what have you been up to? What's post Brothers event Blurs?
What have you been working on?
Yeah, anything. What have you been excited about?
Well, OPR. We've been playing OPR regiments, so I built a bunch of OPR guys. I did a Beastmen army.
I feel like we've mentioned your Beastman probably on the pod before.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has a very, very cool, very unique Beastman
Fixing
army.
everyone's mics here.
Hey, we're short, all right?
Yeah.
Calm down.
Well, you're craning your neck.
I couldn't even
Phil's
reach,
going below.
I couldn't even
his.
reach the mic. There we go. Here.
You can adjust that. You don't need us to do it.
I can touch
Yeah,
the
feel free to
touch
adjust
the
that mic if you want.
So I've been building armies. I did a Beastman army for OPR, rank and flank, and then I just finished a Vampire Count army and primed it up. I have not painted it yet, though. So
That's cool.
and then I painted the terrain for
Yes.
Flames of Orion.
It looks very cool.
But
So the way that you guys play like rank and flank games, you kind of just like build a static list, and like that's just what it is. And, like you don't.
I mean, lately when I'm like, oh, I'm going to build 750 points, and that's going to be the list that I have for that army.
Okay, yeah.
That's kind of what I do, where I have like a theme in mind, kind of what we were talking about in the other episode about like, what's your lore?
Right.
Yeah, I try to build a static list, and it's like if I want to add stuff, I can add stuff.
Okay.
But they just did a giant rules change.
yeah,
It's in public testing right now, where it's rules that we're gonna add or change in the coming month. So here's your time to test it to make sure that it's not the worst.
Yeah, have your say. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the points updated too, so that
Oh,
changed.
God, don't get me started.
You know how the lists were made, but I did it like basically chose a hero, built the hero model, and then built him a retinue. So when I do like a 750 point list, I just grab that particular hero and then use the 1,000 points in his retinue to make the 750. It doesn't always lead to the most competitive army,
Right.
But it does add a lot of flavor to it. So.
But I think that's the best part about regiments is every unit is good and has a place, and you won't just get steamrolled in that game. I don't think. I mean, there is stuff that is very good, but there's also like every unit can do stuff in that game, and it's not just a.
Yeah, it's very
crap
tactical in like where you place your units,
Yep.
and just a crappy unit can bog down another unit for long enough for you to hold the objective. It's only a 4-round game,
Yeah.
which is interesting. It means that you have to be really tactical in your decisions.
Yeah, I think the marker of like a good war game is that like every model on the table has a purpose, and like something that doesn't necessarily like beat ass is still good for something.
Yep.
Yeah, it's meant to be used a certain way, and like if you use it right, it will help you win the game.
100%.
Yeah.
There's very seldom units that I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't take that, or that is a very lackluster choice. It's
Yeah.
like every list is
You just
very
gotta
slim
figure out
pickings
how
like
to
that.
do it.
When you made your Beastmen, what was your
I think I was going to ask the same.
what was your process
design.
to do that?
Yeah, so very much you have a very distinct visual feel to them.
Kind of like harking back to our last episode. I don't know if you listened to this podcast, but last time
I've
we
heard
were
of it,
talking
yeah.
about how we come up with the idea for our war leaders and what we would do to influence that into the army and such.
We literally talked about your models in that.
Yeah.
No. I know what you
Listen, this is good. This is good hosting. I'm letting the listener know.
So what
I know you listen to this podcast.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah,
how I
like
come
for your
up with-
Beastmen specifically, because I mean, you were working on that post Brothers anyway, and that's like the last time anyone's ever heard your voice on this pod. But
Yes.
you also are kind of in that Steve brain where you're just like, okay, I've got 48 hours, I'm gonna have an army done by the end of it.
It's my desire to play.
Yeah,
And then I have an OCD of like I want that shit painted. Like it's cool like to play the game. We can play a board game and none of those meeples have to be painted. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if we're playing a game where we've spent time on the terrain and custom building and we're in the narrative, I want my models painted.
Right,
And
right.
that's on me, like not on anybody else. But that's why that's my own OCD there.
I'm sure we'll get into it. But our game yesterday when we did twos, my entire army being unpainted, did that bother you as much as it does the internet?
No.
Okay.
No. Not at all. Because that's not a choice for me to make. That's
Right.
a choice for
It's
you
not
to make.
your models.
Yeah, that's fair.
If it's on me, then that's a whole different thing. That's
Right.
my own. But as far as like how I go about or how I went about making that army, I was watching a documentary on Hieronymus Bosch, and I had my bits box out, and I was like, I really want to play OPR, but I don't know how to to make this happen. So I just went through the bits box, and I had a bunch of gores, I think, and I had a box of them. So I just started building with them, and I had a Totally Not Panicking model and put one of those heads on that, and that kind of like spurred, I have this like really strong like a heavier model. It has more of an imposing presence than the gores.
Right.
And also we were messing with, what was the supplement? The Realm of Chaos. Yeah. So I was rolling on, there's like so many charts in that Realm of Chaos book that I was just using it for inspiration and rolling on stuff. And all I could roll on was Beastmen. So I was like, I guess I'm making a Beastmen army, because that's, everything I rolled, instead of it being like an elf or a dwarf or a corrupted whatever.
So you started not knowing it was going to be Beastmen.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so everything so I was like, okay, well, how am I going to make Beastmen?
Good on you for being open to that, by the way, too.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If it would have been like elves, it would have been a little bit harder to go in that direction, because Beastmen, that when that door or that idea opened to me, it was a doable project,
right,
as opposed to now I have to go find
elves. Yeah, I get that.
Models or dwarf models, which I don't have.
Right.
But I do have a bunch of random human bits, and if you put a animal head on a human body, you have a Beastman.
Yeah.
And if you start looking at like inspiration from the Hieronymus Bosch documentary that was playing at the time, I felt like I could go in really any weird direction.
Where'd you watch this documentary? Just so people know.
YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a really good channel if you like the arts called Blind Dweller, and he does unknown artists and artists with mental disabilities and stuff like that people don't really know about, that are incredible artists. So, yeah.
So watching this, you just started digging through the bin and made these beasts?
Yeah, I started with the gores and that leader, and I put the kind of the little Realm of Chaos unit together. And then I was like, I started messing with the Army Forge from OPR, and I want to build this whole army up. And started going through my bits box and pulling out bodies that I could use and what I need to simulate that unit on the table, and kind of went from there. So
with the was it Beast Lord? What's the
Beast Lord?
The fucking
the Longhorn. Yeah. No, the Minotaur Lord.
Yeah, he's a Minotaur.
Oh, he's a Minotaur Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doom Bull.
He probably beats ass.
Yeah.
So where did the idea for having 2 foot long horns on that guy come from?
Completely spontaneous. Kate and Phil were playing.
Yeah, me and Kate were playing AOS, and Blurs was digging through the bits.
I was right over there digging through the bits.
Yeah.
That model has been sitting in the bits bin
Yeah.
for so long.
And there were these 2 horns from, I think, a Lumineth model that I don't know where they came from. I mean, it's not my bits box, so I can't say. And I almost asked before I stole them, but then I just put them on there, and that's the end.
Too
of
bad.
it. Yep.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I was going to use those.
There are some real.
I mean, you
insane,
get 'em
have
back
you
if you
ever
want.
seen? There are some real insane breeds of cattle that
Yeah.
have
Oh,
like,
Yeah.
12-foot like.
Yeah.
We shared something in the group chat the day after. We're like, Blurs is Lord.
There's
Oh, really? Oh yeah.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
like that.
the African
like-
ones that cool themselves.
Yes.
Like
but he had like flesh hanging from it in the thing we shared.
Oh.
I think I sent it to you too, maybe.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Okay. But yeah. Just like 6 foot long horns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the idea. And then, when your bits, I mean, I don't know how everyone does it when they're kit bashing, but when you're kit bashing, when pieces fit up, they can kind of tell a story. Like
100%.
there was a plate that went on the front of the Minotaur's head, and that instantly
It's like
was
real Aztec look, right?
Yep, right. That was on the original model, which was like a gorilla looking thing.
I don't know what it
with
was.
dreads. And so I put a chaos plate right over its face, so you couldn't really tell that it was so gorilla, and then sculpted ears next to the big big horns, and instantly it had like this flavor of this old Minotaur Lord that is blind, probably senile, but just filled
Is still
rage
just
of-
juiced.
Yeah, and so they really just direct
old
him
man.
in whatever, and his retinue really just follows him. Wherever the Longhorn goes is where they follow.
That's so sick.
So-
Did you did all Minotaurs for that list, or is there still some other?
There's all kinds of little guys in
Yeah,
there.
there's like some dogs and harpies that follow
Cool.
the Minotaurs around. Yeah.
Then what about the vampire counts that you did? Do they have like a real like out there sort of theme, or are they more like traditional?
I wanted to do zombies.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to paint 50 zombies, so I just built trays and built little dioramas on them. So instead of putting 10 dudes to a tray, I put like 3 dudes and they're raising up out of the ground, and that's my Tin Man unit.
Yeah.
So I was able to make a box of 10 zombies make 40
using wound markers.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
using wound markers. But the idea
That's cool.
behind that was I didn't really want to do a vampire. The only problem is the list building kind of makes you do if you want a dragon, you gotta put a vampire.
Have a vampire
count.
lord riding it.
Yeah, so I kind of made him like an old lich. He's just this really old lich, and I made from the Curse City box. I had these like little tokens of undead cats. So there's 2 undead cats and 2 skeletons like holding signs, and they are my objective markers when I play with that army. And the whole theme behind that army is he's just a raised lich who's looking for his reanimated cats that have escaped. So he's just fighting everybody.
My cats
Go
went
find my
over
cat.
here. I gotta get them.
It's like out of his mind, lich lord.
There's
just,
an army coming to stop him.
Yeah.
He's like, get out of! I'm trying to get my cats.
Yeah.
He's just raising zombies to being like, go look for my cat.
Yeah.
Go look for my cat.
That's so funny.
What was that in ICC?
Ice Crown cereal?
Yeah, what
I don't remember.
there's a cat. Oh my god, whatever. I'll fucking remember it 20 minutes from now.
I only ever did Up to the Sky ship.
It's
in ICC.
the guy who sounds like the Futurama guy. Great news!
Oh, good
everyone.
news! The
Yeah, yeah.
ooze is flowing.
Yeah. Do you kill the little cat before him and he's just like, no.
Okay, I do remember that.
Whatever. Anyway.
Okay, I don't know what that one is.
Reference
about
for
World of
7
Warcraft.
people that
Oh,
listen to
okay.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, no one listening to this podcast likes World of Warcraft.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
How many people are going to respond to that?
Oh god. I'm turning DMs off. So besides those 2 armies,
Uh-huh.
just besides cranking out 2 whole armies, what else?
One's not fully painted, so
Yeah.
it's not done. So I haven't cranked 2 out, just 1.
Yeah.
You've been doing
Just cranking 1.
Necromunda terrain though, right?
Yeah, Necromunda terrain.
Ton of Necromunda.
I have been working on the next section of my Necromunda board, which has been a lot of experimentation and hasn't been all that fruitful.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's sometimes to build something, you kind of have to,
You got to explore.
Yeah,
Right.
And that's what I'm doing with it.
How do you feel about going vertical, like real vertical with it? Like,
I love it.
have you been doing that? Because I haven't really seen a ton of your because I feel like you haven't been doing a lot of pictures of it, but maybe I'm just not getting it fed on my algorithm.
I haven't really. I did a post just on like the parts that I've finished. But the next section I'm working on is like to deal with the verticality of it, and there's been a lot more engineering problems I've had to solve than I thought I
Yeah.
would have to. So
I always felt like doing sci-fi terrain was harder than doing fantasy terrain because of the gribblies. Like fantasy, you just do stone walls and
Yep.
like wood walls
Yep.
with like plaster, but sci-fi, I feel like you need more stuff, which you don't necessarily because it's concrete. You just paint it gray and call it concrete, but
I do agree that there's a large difference. I think it's familiarity. Like if you would
Yeah.
have started out building sci-fi terrain, it might not be the same because there's so much in the recycling bin that you can use
Yeah.
that
I
makes
think-
for greeblies. So
I think I agree with you, Steve. In my brain, it's the same way, but I think it's the level of not like cluttered, but like the amount of like detail per square inch compared to fantasy, where fantasy's like it's a long field and then you have this windmill with like cracked stone and whatever. But in like a sci-fi building, it's like well, there's got to be a data pad, and if there's a data pad, there's got to be a thing over
door
here.
or a
Yeah,
latch
yeah,
or
exactly.
something.
There's so much more that you would cram into each little spot compared to a fantasy build, but.
I mean that's true, but what you're comparing there is a single building at the end of a field to like a
A
sci-fi
science compound,
yeah, a
the
compound.
wall.
So
Yeah, yeah.
if we do the same thing, like look at MS Terrain Labs, like that. His boards,
everything on there is filled
like
with
that's
true.
so much
No,
detail.
you're right. You're right. Yeah.
If you did a Necromunda board, it would be the same.
Yeah.
Is there any YouTubers that's done what MS Terrain does with Necromunda? Because I feel like there isn't, but I could just not be in the loop.
I'll say
Not-
listeners, let us know.
Not
Yeah.
YouTubers that I know of.
Because I would love like your board from Nemo. I still can't like wrap my head around how insane your board was. I still think about it to this day all the time.
Many times I think about it and I go, I spent hours putting bricks on that nobody ever even saw.
We should set it up sometime
Yeah.
and play, because I would love to like just play games.
Listen, I want to admit something that I almost texted the group chat yesterday in a moment of vulnerability. I want to play Mordheim.
You want to play Mordheim, or you want to play the
game
idea
that he
of it?
hates?
No, I want to play Mordheim.
I would love to play Mordheim on your table.
Yeah, I mean, I'll bring it down.
I would love
All
that.
right.
We'll put 2 boards together and set it up like at Nemo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. But where I was going with this was, do you think you'll do a Necromunda table to that level?
Yes, the table I'm working on will be that level, and I hope taking it to the next level, because I do like to push myself with projects. So I want to do a couple ideas with it. Is I want to do Dylan, like he was so inspiring at Brothers of Prometheum with like the light work and the fog machine and that whole thing. So I want to pick his brain and see what I can enhance there. I was thinking of like, here's a crazy idea that I have is, we make these boards, we use the XPS foam, and we make these perfectly flat boards that are 1.5 inches, 2 inch of XPS foam. Mm-hmm. Why not run electricity into that? I'm going to try to run some sort of
LEDs.
USB ports into it so I can plug in that board, and whatever I set onto it, I can then from internally plug into and light or power in whatever way I want. So that's on my next.
Go wire some small speakers in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Play
there
some
Yeah,
ambient.
I would
fountain.
If you're doing, I would love to be involved. So anything you do with this, I would love to come over and learn a new skill with you.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that, let me know, because
we should have a little get together with Dylan to have him go through some of that.
Oh, he's very knowledgeable
his
of all
lighting stuff too. But
Dylan, when you hear this, please reach out to me in Blurs in group chat fashion.
Yeah,
please.
we could. You could just text him, but
No,
you have to wait
I saw
a
him
week.
yesterday.
And then,
it's more fun being called out in front of everybody else.
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Did you see?
All 3 listeners.
Because I had this.
2. I'm here.
Oh yeah,
You're right, dude. Fuck.
Yeah, but you're gonna listen to this episode. I had this vision for a Mordheim table where it was like all walkways, like very high verticality, like your Necromunda board, but all like walkways and stuff. And I thought that would be an insane thing and very cool and look very nice. And then I realized how much work would actually have to go into it, so I didn't do it. But very recently, his name is Michael Wytrack. He came to Nemo. He's working on like it's either a 1x1 tile. It's probably
Fucking massive.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's like 2 or 3 feet tall. And it's multiple like bridge walkways going over each other, and it looks so sick. And with like causeways that go down each other, ladders,
like
and all.
Gothic architecture.
Yeah, and I think they're playing. They're either playing Mordheim. I don't think they're going to play Mordheim. Actually, I think it's for.
I think it's for Cauldron.
No, I don't think it's for Cauldron. I think it was specifically for Necropolis. I think it's for Necropolis.
Okay, cool.
And I don't think he's even posted it on his.
I've seen it in stories.
I've seen it in stories, and it's so cool to see someone else doing the idea that I had in my brain.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I want to make 4 of them and bring it to Nemo. So now I'm like, well, now I want to play on that when it comes to Nemo, but I don't get to play any games when it comes to Nemo.
We got to change that. We definitely got to get you gaming at Nemo.
Well, this year, I think we should talk about it. Maybe, just
Next episode.
Wait.
Next episode.
What have you been working on?
Oh, no, we'll get to that.
No.
Next episode, we can tease Nemo shit. I think there's a little bit more that we got to figure out.
Yeah.
the dates are set.
The dates are set, but I think we should let other people know that are traveling from far away first to make sure everyone can get what they need. That's all. Before we just go, here it is, everyone. Fucking deal.
Well, they
with
don't
it.
have to know what else is happening.
Well, I think we can say that it's
3 days.
It's going to be 3 days this
It's
year.
3 days and it's in May. And if you keep asking in the Discord, I'm gonna cancel it.
we're gonna cancel you. Yeah, I think next episode we can do some Nemo juiciness. But well, I was actually gonna segue from what you've been working on, Blurs, but hopefully we got you AOS pilled again yesterday.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love AOS.
I know you have. Yeah, but going probably into what Phil, you've been tactician mode lately. I know you've been on that grind set for for work.
I mean, me and Gage have been playing a lot, so
which is awesome.
excuse
He's
me.
taking a shit.
Yeah, I'm shitting right here in my diaper.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, I haven't really been doing any hobbying at all, but yeah, I play probably like twice a week. We've probably been playing,
Yeah.
and yesterday we did a fun little 2v2 match. Gage and Blurs teamed up against me and Kate.
1,000 points each.
Yeah, 1,000 points each.
Cities of Sigmar for myself, and Blurs was those Sons of Behemoth.
The big giants. Yep.
Who had the most fun?
Me.
Gage. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the most fun.
I don't know.
Really
Kate
fun.
was having a lot of fun. She
Ooh.
was flinging spells all over
Yeah,
the
yeah.
she
place.
was smiling ear to ear the whole time.
So
Yeah,
Kate
we did
won.
we did all sorts of fun.
Yeah,
shit.
she won.
The
Like
game-
she won because she had the most fun.
Yes.
I think the game was more or less contested at the end.
Yes.
But it was one of those, it's like a good classic game where it's very swingy. Where like turn 2, I was like, well, I'm fucking out of the game. I'm done. But then I just like sort of like came back.
Yeah. Turn 3, I was like,
turn-
I'm out of the game. I'm done.
Well, Blurs has only 2 models in a 1,000 point list, so eventually he just wasn't playing
Yeah.
anymore.
Which is fine. I like that.
Yeah.
G-
Yeah,
give me a
Gets
break.
you out of the game.
You made it to
Yeah.
turn 4.
Yeah.
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 This is something that I was talking a lot about at Arcane Con, like just like the getting knocked out early thing, where it goes into like CEDH Magic. That's or like competitive Age of Sigmar or anything, where you're playing the best possible list, and then your game ends fast, and it's like, all right, let's just do it again because that took no time at all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's one of the things. Like, I, it's not that I don't like getting my ass beat. Well, I mean, I guess I do.
No one
like
likes
getting
getting their ass beat.
but it's more like I if it's gonna happen, I want it to just like be over quickly, so you just
Yeah,
like,
shuffle up, play again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
most
oftentimes it's like doesn't always work like that.
I mean, I definitely think it's easier in a card game than it is in a miniature
yeah,
game.
it takes a lot
it's kind
of
of
setup
like
and-
let me spend 10 minutes putting all my models out,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, I lost on turn 1. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
drove
no,
here. I
so
put my models
there's definitely no like turn 1 winning. That's
Yeah,
40k in my experience. There's definitely a lot of like if someone with like a real like crazy like shooty army
Right,
gets
right.
turn 1 and you kind of just like smoke your opponent
Yeah.
before they even get their first turn. But I have never really had that experience with AOS. There's definitely some turn 2 where you're just like, ugh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's like, turn 2, if a bunch of shit happens turn 1 that's like fucking the whole game up, or even, turn 2, you can generally project like,
Yes.
even in a game of chance, I know you can't win. Do you want to just call it right now and we'll just do it again?
Right.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, well, let's just play it out and kill each other's models and
Yeah,
see what
yeah.
happens.
Well, it's kind of like, I mean, so there's a huge shakeup right now in like CDH and EDH. I don't have to get into it because of the bans, but so a lot of it though is like with TEDH, they're calling it tournament EDH. It's kind of like where you have this mentality of like, okay, yeah, we can draw out just for the points to get to the next round because I know I'm going to place into the next thing or whatever, and that's like really why we're here for the tournament. But in reality, it's like you came to play Magic or like you came to play models, right? If your game's over immediately, okay, yes, Phil, you will be advancing to the next round, but we still have 45 minutes. Let's play another game.
Yeah.
I still want to play with my toys. You
Exactly.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
most tournaments I've been at, I don't want to do that with the other person.
yeah, I mean that's
my experience.
A
as
local
well.
tournament,
different of
very
communities.
different.
Yeah. I think if you're at that level, granted, I've only ever played once online in that level, and I lost before I even got to take my turn. But
Were you playing Legacy?
no, I was playing CDH.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Najila turn 1 just fucking won. And I was like, cool, okay. And then it was like, do you want to
I'm
do a
gonna log
rematch?
off.
Yeah. And they were like, no, sorry. And then logged off. I was like, cool, okay. But yeah, granted, different communities, especially like same thing that happened here. If we held like a New England War Council tournament, and it was like, okay, Blur's shit on me turn 1, but everyone's still playing for another hour and a half, I'm pretty sure Blurs and I would play another game.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's really about atmosphere. If you're in a
Yes.
room full of a bunch of sweaty gamers, you probably don't want to play another
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
You probably
no,
want to go outside and get some fresh air.
We got to have a tournament.
Dude, we should. It'd be fun. More time. We
Yeah,
should run
more
like
time
a
tournament.
We should run like a convention for
Try
it.
it.
The most competitive game in the world.
Yeah.
More time.
Yeah, actually, I'm changing the rules this year. It's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be
yeah.
competitive aspect. You really have to beat your opponent's ass.
Oh, my
in the
God.
parking lot.
So Phil, I'm like you and I both worked crazy work hours this week. But Age of Sigmar, you've been tactician mode. You guys played yesterday. Anything else? What are you motivated for? Nothing.
That's a terrible. I'm so unmotivated.
All right. Well,
I got nothing, man.
okay, sweet. Yeah, I mean, kind of same, like I just said, same mindset. I worked a crazy amount of hours last week, but I've been really hyped on cleaning my house, and I'm finding so many old little projects that I'm at a point now where I'm like, oh, I remember this person wanted to do this, so I'll mail them the models. I don't even care anymore. I'm at like a very freeing spot in my hobby right now. Yeah.
Beautiful.
But what's cool is because now, like, Phil and I are playing so much AOS, and like we played our doubles yesterday. I think tomorrow I'm playing Sam.
Nice.
I've been having that kind of what you were saying. It's like, okay, well, you guys are doing 750 for OPR.
I think we're moved up a little bit because
Okay.
750
started.
is very bare bones.
Yeah.
1,000 points is really, especially with the updates, is probably where you want to be.
Right. So it's like, it's kind of the like looking through the book and being like, okay, what silly little fun thing can I do? Or like whatever. Like, I think we were talking about it last episode where it was like, I took 20 elves and it's like, let me get 80 attacks. I want to roll 80 dice. Like, I want to feel 80 dice in my hand type of thing. Or it's like looking at lists for tomorrow with Sam. I'm going to try and run none of like my core units at all. Like, I'm just trying to go full flagellants and see how much I can push that. So that's kind of all I've been really
How many
into.
more? How many flagellants?
Do I own?
Yeah.
I have 20 more back home.
So you'll be able to run 40.
I think I can run 40.
You got to fucking prime your army.
I do.
You could do.
But here's the thing. I did just get Talia Vedra.
Yeah. So
Is that a model?
Yeah, she
Yes.
like rides on a manticore.
She's the manticore with the scorpion
Okay.
tail and everything.
Nice.
I really want to take my time kit bashing that. Once she's made, I think I'll have enough that no matter what I do, I can like get away with models. I don't need to build shit anymore. And then I will push myself for building or painting
You're
that.
holding yourself back right now.
Yeah, I mean, you could
Kind of.
at the very least put a zenithal on some of these
Yeah.
things.
Absolutely. Yeah. That
What color?
Griffin has not been. That Griffin's been built for
2
while.
years.
before this podcast existed.
Yeah.
What color are you going to paint them?
I don't know. We're gonna find out today after we're finished recording. It's the fucking thing I was trying to print or paint yesterday, but whatever the traffic was held me up.
You should use that reference photo that someone sent in the group chat the other day of all the Empire factions. Tag yourself.
Yeah. Tag yourself. I'm Nolan.
Yeah.
But besides that, kind of bleeding into our main topic, the only other real hobby thing I've been doing is poring over this Mighty Empires book. Just trying to get it good to go for War Master and the hype of the crew. By the way, Steve, you played War Master.
I'm officially the War Master.
You are
of
officially
New England.
Yeah.
How was it?
Well, you and I have to play now.
Okay.
We can play right now.
We could.
end
My
this
stuff
pod
is in the
real quick.
case. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, it's not as boring as
It's literally a beer and pretzels game.
Oh, it really?
I would agree with that. I don't think it's like the tactician's game of choice type situation. I think it is a lot more.
Everything's a 4-up, which is nice for your brain.
Yes.
Movement is so important. Like, movement is important in Warhammer Fantasy Battle to an insane degree. This is not as important, but it
will make or
you
break
can
you.
win the game.
Yes.
I decimated Paul.
Yeah.
Like, because of just putting models in certain spots.
Yeah.
Decimated.
It was fucked up how few models he had left at the end.
No, but I mean that's the thing, and I think that's why I like it, because it's like it's so different from like hit to wound, roll the wound, roll a hit, roll the wound. Okay, let's rinse and repeat this kind of every game thing.
Yeah.
Whereas War Master's like, okay, everything's done in this one phase, and then combat is its own total separate entity.
Yeah. Yeah, the command stuff is it's so stupid. It's so dumb. So have you played War Master?
No, I have
Okay,
not.
so you have heroes that can assign orders.
Okay.
Kind of similar to Age of Sigmar, how you used to give orders to get like a buff or whatever. In this, that's how you move.
It's how you play the game.
Yeah, so this unit wants to move, they want to charge.
So for
they
each
wanna do
action a
stuff.
unit wants to take, a commander needs to, or a hero needs to give it.
Pretty much. It's a little convoluted, but so say I have a wizard and a general. Those are my two guys that can issue orders. You kind of want to min-max your hero slot, kind of with it, like how OPR is. You want to take as many heroes as possible. For the example of my game, I have a command 10 general, which is really good. That's like the best in the game is the command 10. But then I had a wizard that's command 8. The wizard can issue commands to any models within pretty much any models on the battlefield but you take minus
within 30. Yeah.
within 30. Okay. So you issue a command. You say, I want this unit to move. You roll 2 dice, and you have to roll under your command value, which was 8. My wizard failed every single time, by the way.
And if you fail on a unit, that unit can't get orders for the rest of your turn.
They can't get orders. They can't act. They can't do anything.
They could shoot if they were shooting. That was it.
So I had to depend on the general to issue commands across the board and hope I didn't roll too high.
And if you fail on your general, it ends your turn.
Yes.
Okay.
So armies like orcs that have insanely low command, or I think Skaven were also pretty low. Vampire actually is high, but it's like the vampire is the good one.
Yeah.
So when you have to like really decide like, well, this unit's really important, so I have to make sure I use my higher command to issue.
Yeah.
It just feels very like it's a lot of tactician of like I have to strategically pick for the best odds to make my stuff actually work.
Right.
And sequencing who am I going to activate first?
Yes.
Because if I fail,
it's just a different kind of war game. Like it's not
cool.
not amongst like the random die roll to hit. It's it's a random die roll to see if I even do shit with my guys.
It's random die roll to get into that position, and then once you're finally into okay, I can move and start doing things, then it's like, okay, how can I plan this out? The chance isn't really in combat. You'll strictly know, okay, this unit is going to fuck my guys up if I get close to it. I shouldn't go over there. I should go over here. And
you can law of average the combat to be like, all right, this combat's going to be win.
And I think the reason it feels so refreshing for me is it's not like, I mean, even Age of Sigmar 4th edition, you saw yesterday, there's not a lot to remember per se, but there's still, in comparison to Monopoly, there's a lot to remember, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose take Monopoly to somebody who's never played it, man. There's a lot to remember.
Yeah. I mean, but still, in a war game sense, right? Like if you go from that to Age of Sigmar, you're just like, oh, I have to remember every ability that these guys do. In War Master, you're not really remembering abilities like that per se. Like,
you're remembering numbers, kind of.
Yeah, remembering numbers, and it's a very different left brain, right brain thing, I guess.
It sounds cool as hell. I'd love to give it a try. But how did you feel about the scale? Have you played a smaller scale?
No, I painted an entire like wood elf army a long time ago. Which
the creator
now
of
that
Flames
I know,
of Orion, the creator of Flames of Orion has never played a small scale game.
Yeah, I played BattleTech. I've never touched a 28mm model. Which now that I know that wood elf army was probably much smaller than because I thought each stand was a unit.
Yes,
which apparently is. An uncommon mistake to make.
I made it too. Who cares?
I know.
Yeah.
I've painted the models. I like painting the models. It's a very different kind of painting because it's almost like the matte technique of like, if I just put a dot of a highlight here, it sells the model.
It does the work. Yeah.
And that's how I painted my entire army in like a few days.
Yeah. That's awesome. As far as the scale goes, like I know that you guys have talked about like doing the macro kind of zoom out, playing a game of skirmish into a game of, a larger game. How did you feel about that as far as like playing an even bigger game because the scale is so small you can get so many troops on the board?
I think it would be very cool to do the zoom out, zoom in thing with it.
I almost feel like that's better for sci-fi than fantasy.
It does work better for sci-fi, but I think War Master gives you the ability to do like, we're going to do a castle siege or like a continent invasion in War Master, and now we're going to zoom into the battle outside the city gate, and then we're going to zoom into Mordheim inside the city of units fighting in the city. Like I think that's
even just War Master versus regiments. You could do a smaller, and then that whole table that you just played regiments on, you could turn into a giant.
I was going to say like the Richmond crew. They're playing 3rd edition, right? But with 10mm.
Right.
Yeah, they just scale it.
I would love to play it. Me and Ian had talked about doing War Master scale, but with OPR rules and just playing.
Because then each tray would be a unit.
Yes, and I have a lot of points.
And then you would have a ton. Yeah, and it would convert pretty easily.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think all you would do is change inches to centimeters. And
pretty much,
just works.
But, I mean, so kind of segueing into our main topic of talking about campaigns today.
Love campaigns.
Specifically, kind of like what we've liked and disliked about campaigns within our group, and like others maybe in the past that we've run or played in, maybe even growing up. I know you, Steve, played Necromunda with your brothers.
Wow.
Yeah,
They played Necromunda campaigns, and I watched.
But in comparison to like then versus now, and like what you expect and didn't like about things like that, last time you and Ian were here, you guys were talking about, you're launching an OPR campaign for the local crew? Or?
Yeah, we're doing a map campaign based on the General's Compendium book rules, which I think it's very similar to the Mighty Empire stuff, where
Probably.
tiles have like a representation of like what's going on.
Yeah,
and, like, moving through tiles is a certain amount of movements. You do movement phase, and like it's almost like playing Civilization.
Yep.
And then you do the games.
Yep.
When people actually connect.
Right.
And it adds levels of rules where like if you're in if you take a turn to fortify in your movement, you get extra points in your next game when someone moves into you to fight you. Or like if you have an ally next to you when you go to fight, you get extra points because of your ally.
Right.
And we're planning a campaign and it looks really fun. We're not rushing into it specifically because we don't want to fumble it would be the word.
Yeah,
like we don't want to like, oh, we're going to do this, and without really thinking about it, oh, well, it's already over because no one cares, or like this was fucked up about it.
Right. That's your like biggest fear right now? Like what are your issues with campaign planning at this stage? What are some of the blunders?
The blunders are taking an old campaign setting like that was written for Games Workshop in like the 90s.
And just to clarify real quick, you're doing this, you're keeping it Warhammer adjacent, right? You're still keeping like old world.
Yeah,
lore,
it's gonna be in the Border Princes campaign.
Okay.
Literally the Border Princes General's Compendium rules is what we're using. We're gonna take all the text and just reformat it into a new document.
Yep.
Just so it's OPR because that's what we're playing.
Right.
And that's it. So we're gonna use all the same rules, and like we've been reading it, looking at it nonstop, and we're just like, all right, this is all pretty fine. We're just going to maybe like take out this line of text that doesn't really translate well or doesn't really work. And that, besides that, I mean, it's ready to go. It's just making sure everyone has armies that are painted because we want to play with painted armies. We want to make sure everyone has the stuff. We want to make sure everyone likes the game enough to be like, okay, we're going to do a long form winter campaign.
This is the system. Yeah. That's cool.
It's pretty cool. There's a cool map that I redid all the files for. Did Photoshop and redid it, and it took me so long to do. Probably wasn't worth doing, but
right. What are some of the better parts of the campaign that you're more excited about?
Like the fun stuff
that are adding to the campaign more than just showing up to play with blurs or whoever that.
I really like the movement phase. I think everyone's sitting down and being like, like tactical movement of your guys with like a long stick across the map is very funny and fun. Deciding where on the map you control, who you're going to make alliances with, how you're going to like, because we really love the unbalance, quote unbalance of, well, that position is fortified and he has an alliance next to him, but I really want that tile, so he's going to have 400 points more than me if I fight him in a game.
Right.
So you have to plan like, well, how am I going to fight that? Do I have to lure him out? Do I have to get an ally? Do I just fight the battle and just hope I win the game? Like, so I think it adds another layer to playing these games. It seems really fun. Not everything has to be balanced.
Yeah, handicap match.
True.
Yeah. And not every game is a handicap match. It's just like a fun thing that you then have to think of when it comes to the movement phase around the map.
Right. Blurs, do you have any experience with a unbalanced style game or any campaign prep like that?
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting topic. Campaign can be for so many things. Obviously, a role-playing game. Like the first thing that comes to mind when you say campaign is D&D. But as far as like a campaign, say for Necromunda or AOS or something like that, I've ran Necromunda campaigns quite a bit. I mean,
what's your longest running one?
I think we probably played for almost 3 years the same campaign. Multiple people, multiple gangs dying and being remade because Necromunda is pretty harsh. Can be pretty harsh.
Yeah.
So, at least the old one. That was the old one too.
Right.
So,
with the tiles you were making, did you guys start a campaign? The Necromunda campaign? I thought I saw.
We started one, and then we got distracted by OPR. Basically, is what happened.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really. It was kind of like started the tutorial process of teaching people how to, play the campaign or play the game, or seeing how many people we could get involved in it.
Right.
Me and Kate have been playing a Necromunda campaign on and off for a little while now, but that's just like our, when it's just you and one other person, or you and two other people, it seems to flow. Like my 3-year Necromunda campaign was just 3 people. Like it was just us showing up at the weekends or Friday night and getting a Necromunda game in real quick.
And then you have your roster. Your roster that carries over every time.
Yeah. And games are linked. Like we would have, this Saturday, let's do something crazy. Let's, somebody's defending the nuclear power plant as the other people are trying to place bombs or something like that. But
as someone who's never, I've skimmed every Necromunda book ever, but I've never actually taken the time to sit down and read it. When you're doing these linked games, what is driving the narrative for the campaigns that you've been in? Because you're not doing map tiles. You're not doing like a Mighty Empires or a Border Princes campaign. You're
actually, so for one of them, I did do map tiles, and I literally just took a 1-inch by 1-inch gridded out piece of paper and was like, that's a block, that's a block, that's a block.
Sick.
And so then, we were doing your standard fight over a map. I'm going to attack this territory. I'm going to attack that territory.
What was driving those decisions?
That one was kind of each person had to bring their own story to the campaign. It wasn't like this is going to happen, so you guys have to react. There was no DM in that sense.
Right.
I wasn't arbitrating that campaign. I was just a player in it. It was more of like a communal one, so everyone can play type of thing.
Yeah.
I have ran where I'm not playing in it, I'm playing the NPCs, and this, there's the driving force. Here's a driving storyline of the pumps going off and the water flooding into the hive and you having to escape.
That's like something kind of baked into Necromunda, though, is the territories aspect of it. Like it gives you almost a narrative hook. Like, there's a sump pump that is providing clean water, and your gang wants to control it.
Right.
So you guys are here to control that territory of Necromunda.
Yeah.
There is the whole campaign side of Necromunda lends itself to already giving you this narrative. You're a gang. It's like the Warriors. You're a gang. Mm-hmm. There's other gangs. You're fighting them. You don't really need more. Right. If you want more, you can add it. And that I think actually is a nice point in making campaigns, is that sometimes if there's a simple reason that everyone can follow along with, then you have the natural momentum of the game, and then people can bring what they want to it, as opposed to I have to be pushing the game forward. The game just naturally flows forward.
So that's an excellent point. What I going off of that, whereas as kind of like a GM role per se, even if it's up to the players themselves doing it, I think like for Steve, your campaign, I was talking to Ian about it a little bit. I mean, the meme is that I hate OPR. I don't hate OPR like that, but I was saying I think it'd be cool to do like NPC factions or something like that, where I could just be like in Civilization, there's like the barbarians.
Oh yeah, I fucking hate.
You know what I mean?
Or
and
the
like
city states.
Yes, they don't do anything for the game per se. Like they're never going to win the game. I would love to be that player. That way,
that
it's
exists in the General's Compendium rules.
Right.
There are beastmen that roam around and will come to your game and fuck with you.
Right. And I think that is such a cool aspect of it, because we're like per se, these players are joining the campaign. Their real only goal, and I think a campaign like that, correct me if I'm wrong, is domination. See how much you can get. Yeah. Right? Where in like maybe a Necromunda campaign, it's more like my guys only want they're the water faction. They only want to make sure people have clean water, and that's anything that has to do with it, they're gonna fuck with. But like going into our Age of Sigmar campaign, Phil, you have some thoughts. We were gating our conversation yesterday because of this.
Yeah, so it's funny. Steve said something earlier about not wanting to fumble like the campaign by jumping in too quick. So I definitely feel like I can speak on that as someone who I think has fumbled a lot of bits of like campaign play.
Just for the record, I think that term is a little harsh.
Well, no. So the one thing I think that's like important if you want to run a campaign is to try not to do too much. Like, try not to like do everything for everyone. Like, you know,
people have to want to be there.
That's the thing too. The other thing too is you have to expect that, like, you know, everyone that like joins in is not going to stick around.
Yes.
But
that's hard when you do map campaign and stuff like that. That makes it almost impossible to play.
That's like made this like
we're literally recording in front of this map.
Not half of it, but like many of the people who signed up for this campaign never even played a single game.
Yes.
So,
and I will say, I don't think you did anything wrong. That's not
there are things that I would have done differently, which like.
So for the listeners, just so you know, our Age of Sigmar campaign had a very bad start given the timing.
Multiple.
We got into the studio.
2 false starts.
We were excited about it. Well, before the studio existed, there was a false start of trying to get people organized. It never really caught on because it wasn't a space that we controlled from my perspective.
Well, because then we were just trying to use the straight up Path to Glory rules in the book, and just trying to play regular.
It was between editions. It didn't really work. Then once we are finally kind of all on third, we have the studio. We're getting the campaign rolling. Bam! We are immediately hit with Nemo prep.
Yep.
And no one was playing games. So
I mean, I played 4 games.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I played a ton to get to my army to a point where I was stoked on it, and then I got my next big unlock, and then we kind of all fell off.
Same exact thing happened to me.
Big crunch time. So our campaign for Age of Sigmar kind of just was like an immediate hiatus point where all of us kind of stopped. And
no one ever picked up the banner.
Not really. And Phil and I have been playing, and for alternate reasons, I was getting back into AOS, but I was using my campaign list, and unfortunately, 4th edition's out. There's not really Path to Glory stuff publicly available for everyone yet. And it's
I don't know that it's even a route I would want to take.
Exactly.
Like the official Path to Glory. Because the second start of the campaign, I essentially just did my own version. I just wrote an entire version of Path to Glory with like specific, like I made up a map, divided into sections, had a
huge map for the record.
There's 30
a world.
30 tiles, and there's
realm,
a specific like mission for each tile and all that stuff.
Not just a specific mission, a bespoke full scenario with
full scenario
with lore.
They're not that. No, you're giving me a little too much credit. So they're all pre-existing missions for 3rd edition AOS. That some of them I modified some of them.
Right.
And then as far as lore goes, I just did like it's like we were talking about in our character
Dark
thing.
Souls.
I did like a 1-sentence bit of lore for like each zone.
Do one right now. Do one right now.
One zone?
Yeah, pick one zone and
the
do
fortress.
the
I literally
the city of fallen defenders or whatever.
Dude, I can't fucking remember. I would literally pull up my phone.
The abominable volcano.
I don't remember it's literally 1 sentence. Let me see if I can.
I don't know, but the names are great.
Blur's,
the names
what was the one
great.
that you took
Very
over?
evocative.
The Fault of Broken Teeth.
Oh,
yeah.
The Fault of Broken Teeth. All right, let me see if I can find that one. Oh, yeah. Pillars of valuable ore rumble across this menacing canyon as if they had a mind of their own. So that's like when we were playing, there's sort of like plateaus were sort of just like moving across the battlefield each turn.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and there was
really
there's really no like lore reason for that. I wanted to take I didn't want people to like look at me and be like, well, what happens next? What happens next? I literally just wanted to be a collaborative story. Like, make up a fucking NPC that shows up. Like,
but why did you feel the need to make that as a curator of the campaign?
So there is so I looked at a mission type, and then there's in that mission the objectives move during the So I'm like, well, why do they do
this?
What objective is moving around? Why is it moving around? So I'm like, all right, well, it's a natural resource. It's ore, and because it has like it's this crazy high fantasy world. This ore has like a consciousness of its own that's making sort of like just these great pillars, like Monument Valley style pillars of rock are just kind of just slowly sort of just like moving around like the wasteland. And that was just like a sort of mental image I had. I'm like, well, that's all that we're going to get for that. And people can freestyle on that however they want.
Right. You're you're trying to create a level of buy-in that is easier for the player.
Yeah. Again, like I wanted the player to sort of figure out the narrative stuff for themselves. But things that I would rather have not done was like I redid all of the post-game stuff, and one thing that I saw immediately was that most people did not care about the post-game at all.
Oh, I care.
I know you care, and I care, but so many people didn't. I'm like, well, there's really no reason to even do this. And like, I don't know if we restart the campaign, if there's like another way to do a post-game, or like how I would do it.
What's the post-game for yours looking like?
What do you
There's I don't think there's anything for it. It's just
It's a pre-game.
Yeah, it's all
For
pre-game.
movement and
I think post game, like rolling on tables, is cool. I think that's fun. I don't think a giant war game is the game to be doing that though.
Yeah,
like how Path of Glory is.
Yeah.
I disagree. I loved the random shit.
I liked getting bonuses on my units. I like all that stuff, but how do you juggle that? Like it. I know they did the VP system, and you could like, you got XP and all this stuff. It's like. I just feel like there's a simpler way to do it to not make it like I have to roll, like I have to, because it was like you'd have to spend like 20-30 minutes sitting there doing all the stuff. If you
it
make
relies on buy-in. That's what it is. Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest hang up for map campaigns is people have to buy in. And like
that's
whether
the biggest thing for campaigns.
And I think giving narrative, and I know not everyone is a narrative gamer, which is fine.
Right.
But like don't play in a campaign. That if you're not looking for the buy-in, if you're just looking to play games, it's like.
Well, Blurs, I know you just gave me eyes, and I want to go back to that point in a second. But I think what Age of Sigmar did specifically with their Path to Glory, making it like, okay, in reference to Phil's campaign here, Path to Glory had a system where you could still play your Path to Glory list in a points conversion that made it work for non-Path to Glory players.
Yeah.
I think that would work in a system like
that. So you
that.
could just play a regular game, and at the end you sort of do your own like accounting and be like, right, well, I'm not my list is now affected this way.
Yes, and I know my opponent does not give a shit about this campaign, but it counted for me, and I'm gonna go.
But that's like, I mean, why would you want to play the person? Because the one thing,
why would you want to track that win with a random person? It's like how I
mean,
that's how I think about it.
If they were playing in the studio for this campaign, that's the only thing I would
and you can always just
equate
make
that
up
to.
a reason of like, well, this random faction showed up and I crushed them and they never showed up again. You know, that you could totally just do that narratively. But the other thing is that I never really figured out a good system for map rules. Like I said, each tile had its own specific mission for it, but then I'm like, well, what is the difference between each, what is the benefit to even controlling like a map hex? And then like half the time people were playing, they weren't even playing on the hexes that they controlled. So I'm like, well, this feels like completely arbitrary.
So how General's Compendium does it is when you move on the map, because there's movement phase.
Yeah.
You move on the map, you control that territory until someone else moves into it, and then they take it, unless you have a banner there.
Yep.
There's a banner system. Like I have multiple armies that are all 1,000 points or whatever your point value is, and they're set around the map. And you spend the movement phase of the game moving your banners, and as they move, they conquer territories, and you would like color it in whatever your faction is. And that would change as factions moved around the table.
I think the map campaign, with the way you had it laid out, worked for visualizing what each scenario was and what would it provide, and you'd be able to visually see where the bonuses were for each faction, the big four.
Yeah.
But yeah, without a movement system in place, technically that could have been a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
It's just a more visual representation.
It's fun.
Yeah.
How is Mighty Empires different than the General's Compendium with movement and stuff like that?
I haven't read the General's Compendium one more than, because I think I have it. It was the hardcover for 4th.
I don't know. I have a PDF.
Okay, so maybe I'm equating it to something else. But
there's a lot of content in
there's
that
a
book.
shit ton. Yeah, and I mean Mighty Empires is the same thing. The Mighty Empires is also a ton of upfront rolling.
Yeah,
and especially like, dude, you could lose a battle because you didn't feed your troops.
Yeah, that's not. General's Compendium is definitely a simplified version, whereas Mighty Empires is a separate game on top.
Yes, and which is why, to what Phil was talking about, where he didn't want to take on that role of being like, I'm going to do everything for everyone.
I am the storyteller.
I am the storyteller. You have to come to me with what you've got. For Mighty Empires, I'm thinking for like War Master, or if it even goes past this, it's more so just to see these products. But I wanted to be like, okay, Paul, you're the map master. I'm the Mighty Empire's master. Like, I'm telling you, okay, Blurs, you're going to roll on this chart, and turns out you guys are starving, and Phil's going to take advantage of this, or like, you know what I mean, stuff like that. But post is not as much as Age of Sigmar did.
Yeah.
But Blurs, going back to you for a second ago, you gave me a inquisitive look when we were talking about.
Well, it just what you guys were saying about it. It brought up a few different thoughts.
Yeah.
The map campaign. So if you are playing on a map that's giving you a visual representation, I feel like there's a bit of a pull towards like traditional RTS video games, right? Like
Yes.
that's kind of what you want.
our generation of growing up on games, yeah.
You want your barracks producing your troops,
Yeah.
your that type of thing.
You need to build you must construct additional pylons.
And first thing I'm going to say is, you got a computer doing all the calculations and all that math for you, then go for it. But if your brain is doing it, or somebody has to do it, then
That's a good point.
that's a huge buy-in that a lot of people don't realize. And if you've DM'd a Dungeons and Dragons game or something like that, you will get it that it's a lot of work, and people don't realize that you're doing a lot of work for them to show up and play for 2 hours, drink
And then
their
leave.
and then leave.
Not
so,
pay attention.
yeah, high five you. Thanks for doing that. Bye.
play on their phone the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So there is the buy-in and how much you want to.
I think
Well,
that's
that's
why
the thing is you have to what I'm sort of like getting at is that you have to make it as not necessarily simple, but you have to make the buy-in easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
painting your army and giving them a cool name for your hero. I think that should be the bare minimum buy-in to
Yeah.
playing a narrative campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course.
Well, if you're not going to go the very granular RTS rules, say like Mighty Empires, which is basically another game on top of
Yes,
playing,
yes.
then you're doing it more as visual representations for the people's imaginations to play whatever tabletop game they're playing, not necessarily playing another game on top of AOS.
Right.
We just want to be able to link our games together,
Yes.
right? Because
Yeah.
that's a campaign.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
linked story.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have a whole world. It doesn't have to have my troops are starving. We could just randomly roll on that, off the cuff at the beginning of and then write that down, and you've recorded it. You have a campaign.
Right.
So it's how much you want to put into it, but I kind of feel like the best path there is leaving it open.
yeah.
Just designing your map.
That's
with
all
your
I
one
really
word.
want to do is just like, all right, well, this is just a sandbox for people to play in. It like add as much narrative to it as you want to.
Because in my opinion, there was no fumble on your part.
No.
I would say, if anything, there was zealousness in everybody wanting to be involved,
Yeah.
and it didn't go through. And then it was bad timing too, because 4th dropped right then, and then people's rules changed. People didn't,
Yeah.
They're still changing.
Yeah, exactly. They're still changing. So
And I think that's like where I get a little down about Age of Sigmar sometimes
Yes.
is we put so much time into Age of Sigmar 3. Gage didn't get his book till the
Sigmar in general. It's just Games Workshop games
Yes,
change.
yeah,
so
yes.
fast.
and I
so
think
fast.
I think that's why I'm so hammered down about being like, fuck that. Like, fuck buying into new books, fuck buying into a rule set that just keeps changing all
Right.
the time. Like, it's annoying.
I'm under the influence of, if you have a particular rule set that you say own a copy of, not a digital copy, but a physical copy, it's your game. You
Yeah.
want to change the rules to it?
Well, I
change
mean,
the
I
rules.
ostensibly with my faction, I can't really go past 4th edition
Right.
anyway. So that's the
until
edition
they
that I'll
decide
be
to change
playing.
their mind or do
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
with it,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it drives me nuts.
But I mean, as the gaming that we have been doing the last few weeks, I mean, we're still getting something out of it as far as like campaign play, because every time we play, we're doing a zone from the map and we're coming up with like a quick narrative on what we're doing anyway. Like, yesterday, we had this alliance that, it was Beastmen and Sylvaneth, sort of like, good and evil sort of like came together to defend the forest from. We have the humans, the cities that have giant mercenaries helping them clear out forests.
Brought my bulldozers in, dude. We're putting a Walmart there.
And that was our whole narrative for the mission. And it was just the whole mission type was just pushing from one end to the map to the
I'm
other.
bankrolling these giants.
And then, a couple weeks ago when I played with Terry, it was a mission. I don't remember exactly the rules, but the way that
the
we
carts.
played it was
You were playing. It was like a highway with a bunch of
yeah,
like,
but I don't remember exactly the actual like objective was, but the idea was that I was trying to scavenge like this like abandoned caravan, and Terry, he's his guys are undead. He doesn't really care about the resources. He was just trying to deny me from getting them.
Yeah.
He was just trying to be a bastard. And that that was a narrative decision on his part.
Yeah.
That kind of goes back to I'm glad you said that.
And obviously none of that. We weren't doing any post game. We weren't doing any any worrying about how that affects the map at all. We're just like, all right, here's a map hex. Like we have like this is the environment. This is what's going on in this part of the world, and this is the mission, and this is why we're motivated to be fighting in this part of the map.
Do you think, in reference, just because it's coming up, in reference to your campaign, Steve, with Ian, do you think if players come in, like if I come in with orcs, right, and my only faction goal is to do this very specific thing, do you think that would be possible in how you're doing it with the map campaign?
It doesn't matter.
Like if my orcs are only going, okay, there's a volcano.
I'm going
on
in
this
a
map.
straight line to this one place.
Right. I'm going there no matter what.
And the problem with the General's Compendium rules that I've found is the banners that you set up. So you give orders, and we were going to do all the orders online because it's just, here's a Google form, fill out your order. You have until Sunday to fill out the order.
Right.
If you don't fill out the order, you do nothing.
You stay put.
Yep. The problem that I'm coming up with everyone, everyone gets really excited about a map campaign. They all want to be involved. Everyone wants to play. Is when those two stands meet, and those two people have to meet up in 2 weeks' time, within 2 weeks, and play your game.
Right.
And it's like, well, when that doesn't happen, and one person's excited, and the other person's like, oh man, I lost track of time. I couldn't make it out, or I couldn't do whatever. It's like that kills both people's interest to play in the game.
That's why I think you have to do it in a way where certain people's like inactivity doesn't ruin it for other people.
Well, the thing is, the banners and all that stuff is very cool. You just have to have a buy-in to playing games.
Yeah.
Like, I get what you're saying, where like, oh, if I don't want to do anything, it doesn't fuck with the map, which with some factions it wouldn't even matter. Like, oh, if you want to sit over there and do that, but if you're the guy that's going across the map and doing a bunch of stuff and then getting involved in three different conflicts.
I'm cutting everyone's food supply off. I know we just keep referencing this, but I'm cutting everyone's food supply off, so I'm going to go for their weakest tile every line that they're making. Yeah.
Well, so you don't have to fight a game if you do that.
Right.
You only have to fight a game if my banner goes to your banner. So if like I said, you just have to want to play games. Yeah, is like all it really comes down to.
With Mighty Empires, there's a built-in thing where they obviously it's a GW product. They're recommending you play their games. And I know we've referenced this before with Trent Miscast put the idea in my head that his local group was using Mighty Empires for everything, but they would change the ratios for points. So it would still be, okay, Blurs has a 2-to-1 ratio over me. So what game do you want to play this week, Blurs? You're going to, let's play Mordheim. Okay, you get 2 warbands to my 1. You can play whatever game you want with this point value. But to that point, it also does give you just a chart to roll on.
Yeah.
So if your player is not even there, okay, well, I get 2 dice, you get 1 dice. I rolled higher than you, okay, you lose. And this is by how bad, the difference, and go on. So that's
cool. I think that's awesome.
Those are the tools, though, I think you need for inactivity or to prevent.
Yeah. You're not here to play the game this week.
Sucks.
All right,
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, you roll a d6 and send me the picture.
Well, so my thought to combat when people were just too busy or whatever for the campaign, like whenever we do kick it off, was I wouldn't play, like kind of what you were saying, like there'd be an NPC faction, and it's like I would stand in because I like playing OPR, and I have more than enough models to play any faction with whatever bonuses. Yeah. And I would just play like, oh, Blurs, your opponent couldn't play. Well, I'll play you, and you'll still get to do your map stuff. You'll get to do everything, and his army stood down and hired me as mercenary company to come in and do work.
Right.
Like
I've had something a similar experience, and actually how I got around it in my Necromunda campaign is that I had each person choose when they made their gang whether it was a constructive gang or destructive gang. So are you a chaos cultist trying to bring down the hive, or are you trying to build up your empire within the hive city? So if you were a destructive gang, you didn't necessarily hold a home turf territory. You basically moved through the maps, destroying things. And I set that up because two of the people that were playing in the campaign were really wishy-washy and flaking out a lot. So I didn't want them to be a permanent place on the map that I had to just ignore. Like, your barbarian didn't show up this week. I guess we're not doing any combat.
I can never go here because of this.
And that's mentally...
Which I hate.
Yes.
I
that
hate,
ruins the game.
Freezing outside of the map
limitations,
because...
Creative limitations, no matter
And then
what.
the people who are very involved are like, wow, that's sitting there for another week and
so
it
the
hasn't
people
moved.
that are really involved, they're the constructive societies. They're the ones trying to build up the empire that want to play Mighty Empires before they play the game.
That's cool.
Right.
Your friend just visiting that wants to get a game in, brought his army, they're a destructive society. They come in and they just try to...
That is a smart idea.
For the 2 weeks, the 10 games that they played while they were hanging out with you, they cut a swath through the empire, but then they disappeared.
Yep. That's a cool tool.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So something I really liked about our first iteration of the campaign was how we would play games and then write a blurb. Because that made everything. Like, I had a standing feud with Torbach and like getting lost in this like mystical forest, and like we had like 4 games where I was like being led by this,
just trying to escape this like labyrinthine forest.
Like the realms of like the winds of magic, and like as Zinch was kind of guiding my guy through the woods,
right,
and just kept running into Phil.
yeah
And it painted a cool picture as we played, and then I would write a little blurb, and I thought that like that's almost enough for a narrative campaign. Like you don't really need the bonus rule stuff to run a campaign.
No, I mean that's like it's funny because you would call it like a lighter version or rules light, but technically that's still a lot of work.
Oh yeah,
like, you know what I mean? It's still like writing a short story about
battle
why
report.
you played. Yeah,
when I was arborating for Necromunda, that's what I would have to do a lot. Right. Like follow along them playing and being like, oh, this person wounded that person. Both of them are supposed to track that because they gain XP.
Yeah.
And it's 2 different narrative focuses too. Like you have a vision and he has a vision.
Right.
Like that game where Phil's guys were surrounding you and that's a very cool cinematic thought. And it translates very well to text, but like someone has to sit down and write it. And like, do you write it from the human side or do you write it from the beastmen side? Which either way, it doesn't matter. It's I think documenting your games alone is
for propaganda purposes amongst your friends. It is, but Blurs, what other as we're getting to the end here, what are other GM tools that are good for campaigns or anything that you
I think that
have learned in your years of wisdom here?
Years and years of wisdom.
Years.
Harsh. I mean that's one of them, the destructive and the constructive, so that you can let other people come in and play. Keeping it light, like not trying to overwhelm the rules of the campaign, especially if you're playing a game that is very granular. Like I played in a Warhammer Fantasy campaign years ago. Whenever the Bretonnian and Lizardmen box set came out, I want to say
like
fifth,
like 1990 something.
Yeah, 98.
I remember
maybe?
like it was just yesterday.
Yeah, I don't. It's all fuzzy. It's in black and white. No, and the amount of work that was up front scared everybody away, and nobody wanted to play in that campaign.
I just want to play a game.
Yeah,
because part of it was nobody really knew how to play the game very well.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. Or a lot of people the who don't play as frequently as us, having to play itself is already like daunting.
Yeah,
it's an intimidating thing to also throw a ton of other stuff on top of it.
And now I have to do post game. Oh,
I could do bookkeeping. Yeah.
So, do you ever think about because things like Necromunda, Mordheim, games with campaign longevity where your warband changes throughout the games as you play them? Do you think like the imbalance, like say we were playing and then I played 3 games, you played 1, but I have more stuff now because I played more games. Do you think that ever gets in the way for campaign play?
It matters. It matters what mechanics you are playing, because I don't know about with Mordheim, but in old school Necromunda there was an underdog bonus.
Yeah.
That ended up evening it out.
Mordheim does the same thing.
So eventually you'll play the person who has way more points than you, and it will even itself out. That's the way the mechanics of the campaign. That's also the difference of a game designed to be played in a campaign format and a game designed to be played in a one-off format. AOS is really a one-off format game, and then you tack on narrative on top of that, which is, I think, one gives you the structure there, so that you don't have to do any work, but the other one allows you to build it however you want it to be. So I kind of am leaning towards the AOS campaign versus a Necromunda campaign, because that gives me, being an experienced campaign player, more space to do stuff with.
Yeah.
Or on the flip side of that, less things, less mechanics. Like maybe nobody wants to do all this front end rolling or after game work, so we just slim it down to easy things. Like, you won, you get 1 point. I lost, I don't get any points, or something like that. So, but
maybe we just make a document where everyone just you just write your little fluff, and that's our campaign.
That's it.
Yeah.
But still, that is, like we said, it's like it's your level of buy-in. It doesn't mean like one's better than the other per se.
No.
Gotta stop saying per se.
You sound like the vampires from South Park.
I've never said it in my life until today, and I've said it 4 times now.
it's awesome.
Per se.
Blurs,
What's up? What you need?
what can we look forward to seeing from you before we end this episode? What do you got on your plate?
What?
You going back to YouTube?
Yeah, sure, man.
I like watching your YouTube.
It's such an interesting thing. That's a whole weird topic of like, I was thinking about it. Like I just got a job because I, need money, right? Like I got a new job. I was unemployed there for a while. Dude. Yeah, it sucks, that money thing.
It's the worst.
And while I'm making YouTube videos, I'm thinking like, wouldn't it be cool if I got paid to do this?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that give me, every time that thought comes into my head, I take a break from YouTube. Every time I should be making money off of this. Wouldn't it be cool if this was my job? It makes me not want to do it anymore. It like takes away the creative feel of it. So I don't know. I was thinking of doing like a stop motion, seeing how much I could do with like a stop motion video. I don't know, just doing weird creative stuff.
Yeah.
But I definitely am going to continue doing YouTube videos. I'm just not going. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
You're not pursuing it professionally.
I'm a crazy artist. I can't give you a straight answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just gotta get that that $2,000 Temu check, and then just make a video.
Listen, it's a lot more than that, bud.
Yo,
it depends who you are.
Yeah.
I wouldn't deny it, and that might actually be something that would be like, okay, so get serious if you really want this, right? But hey,
sponsorships for the record,
right?
Temu, yeah,
right. or getting, feeling rewarded for putting the effort in. Because again, it's that you don't know how much effort that person. Yes. You might be able to edit a video in 5 minutes, but it might have took 5 hours for that guy to edit his video. So.
Yep. So just to talk on that point real quick, I didn't get to bring it up. We put the Jet Bike Brawl results out. Multiple people fell through with, we're going to make a website, we're going to do this or that, and not to dox anyone, but it was just like it didn't happen, right?
Yeah. People get excited.
It fell through. People have been super nice with their resources to help me do it myself. Shout out Kai, shout out Brian, everyone that's been hitting me up, but it's still on me to do it. So I was going through this, and I'm like, you know what, fuck, I'm just going to put it in the Discord. That's what it's there for. It's a Discord collab thing anyway. It was kind of showing the separation between In Rust and Hive Scum, regardless, as a brother's vehicle, right? But the amount of work, we had like, what, 70 people, I think, entered?
No.
Yes. Yeah. So 70 entered. There were so many things that, weren't like... They would submit 15 photos.
I now understand what you're saying.
There's 15 photos. I asked for 3. There's just all of this extra shit that...
Not meeting criteria.
Not meeting criteria. And they're like, just anything that was just so like I'm just sending garbage at you. People would send me an email and it was like, here's my entry, and it's a link to their Instagram. I'm not going to your Instagram, bro. You gotta send the pictures to me, like all this shit, right? And I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, this is so much work. I cannot imagine Smash Bash. And I texted Matt and I was like, dude,
I saw that story where you're like, I don't even know how he does it.
I had like no joke, like 2 gigs worth of shit just come into my email where it was like 400 plus photos. And for this is a small thing. Smash Bash, 400 people entering, all doing that. I was like, you're getting like 10,000 photos from people. I'm like, dude, fuck this. Like, you are a god.
You almost need a submission like page to be like, you can put only 3 photos.
These
put
3
your name.
things. Yes.
Here's your email.
It doesn't matter. Nobody reads that anyways. I'm going to bring that over to you and be like, Steve, what do you do? And you're going to be like, read the back of it, dude.
Yeah. So I hear you on that. Like, the final result was just me posting 60 photos being like, here are the things, here are the 3 winners, and people being like, cool. I waited 4 weeks for someone to upload 60 photos, and it's like, no, you have no idea what kind of goes on behind that scene. So yeah, I get
you know what you
lot.
do? You don't listen to those people and you say, you don't like it? Do it yourself.
Oh, I didn't. Don't worry.
So that actually gives me an interesting idea that the ideas are great, right?
Yes.
Like the idea of the jet bike brawl, that's great. The idea of building a Necromunda table live stream, that's a great idea, but can you actuate it? Can you achieve it?
Yeah.
So this would be my advice for campaigns as well.
Yeah.
Would write down your ideas, keep your ideas, don't disregard them, but don't think that those are what you are going to actuate. The action you take building your campaign might be 1-line descriptor texts and that's it, or just writing fluff after each battle, or it might be putting all that buy-in and all that time into rolling prior to each game, like Mighty Empires. But it's don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Keep your ideas, but only do what you can actually do.
Yeah.
Like, keep it small,
Realistic expectations,
and work
Keep
up from
it
there. Yeah.
simple, stupid.
that's it.
Kiss.
Beautiful. Blurs, you rock.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks for
Bye.
coming.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Hive Scum. If you aren't already part of the community, check us out at the In Rust We Trust Discord, which you can find down in the description below. If you have questions you'd like to ask us, you can find our Instagrams down below as well. Or feel free to ask away on the Discord. We also have plenty of extra content and other perks available to our patrons on Patreon. So if you're interested in helping us keep doing what we're doing, then you can find that description below as well. Until next time, folks, keep it grimdark and keep it grimy. Peace.